Um, Again, you're seeing this from a lot of different perspectives. You want to give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight. It sort of enlightens this journey that everyone's on in regards to zero trust.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'll start broad and then narrow into two specific examples. I think one of the things in this space, so we have sort of an approach of these zero trust workshops to help sort of elicit out, where someone needs to start their journey. And we've done this now for a couple of years. And after sort of working in this space for a bit, we've sort of seen four broad use case categories be where everyone starts. And we tend to promote more of that outcome and use case based approach because the pillars and maturing in the pillars is incredibly important. But when you look at a scenario like ransomware, or you look at a scenario like securing the remote workforce, you're touching the identity, what data and applications they're accessing. You're sort of going across those pillars. So the four main areas that we've seen are business disruption and ransomware, which is the only one actually that I haven't heard quite as much about so far. Tanya actually hit all three of the ones in her opening comments, the next three. And everyone's talked about privacy of data and customer and client privacy, protecting the hybrid cloud, and securing the remote workforce. What we have seen is because of the pandemic, that last one has become the main starting point for many organizations. Mm-hmm. And so now to get into some specific projects, one example of that, and specifically because of the remote workforce, right? The internet becomes the network in many respects. And so how do you enable secure access to that? And so it is implementing SASE solutions and getting started in some of those types of areas, which has really enabled the business priority of keeping the end user productivity. And that is the critical point, is aligning with, where the organizational priorities are with good success. There's another one, and there are those implementations and there are those, sort of next generation ways of thinking about some of that. But to go back to the cultural aspect for a minute, I want to highlight a different project that I think illustrates this in a different way. After going through, several months of, working through very detailed assessments and organizational issues and how do we build out a roadmap for a zero trust architecture with one organization, it was very clear in the gaps. Yes, there were some areas like data and application security that really needed shoring up. But one of the biggest pain points, they didn't have a RACI in place. They didn't have any clear roles and responsibilities for when an incident occurred. How did they deal with that across the different silos, right? The silos continue to be one of the roadblocks, if you will, in effectively responding when a breach does occur, when an incident does occur. And so being able to work with them to actually get those clear roles and responsibilities, to be able to actually get people in place in certain areas they didn't have them, that were limiting their ability to effectively respond, right? I equally point that project out as I do the one where, yes, there was a new technology implemented and it helped create, a more mature and an advancing sort of next generation approach, if you will, around securing access with the reality of how people are accessing device, from different devices in the environment today. Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of leave it there, but sure. Just two different examples from a technology and kind of the people point of view.